From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is Ag Day.
Learning leadership in Tennessee.
They see the family, they see the impact that 4-H has had.
We'll see how these 4-Hers are enjoying camp. Plus, weed markets rise after fighting intensifies along the Black Sea.
Attacks on Russian ports and oil freighters, not what we like to see.
Reactions to the latest headlines as rains return to major portions of the Midwest. But is it too little, too late, or right on time today on Ag Day? Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. A new week brings more chances of rain across large portions of the country. The timely precipitation also helping to drive down soybean prices on Monday. Now, take a look at this map of rainfall over the past 7 days. You can see how widespread those showers have been, including heavy rains in parts of Missouri, with some areas getting upwards of 10 inches in the last week alone. Now, the rain, much needed when compared to the latest drought monitor. As you can see from that drought monitor, all of Iowa and Minnesota now in some level of drought or dryness. In Iowa, the northeastern and southeast, along with the west central portions of the state, seeing the most severe conditions. As of last week, some of those areas had only seen 1 to 4 inches of rain all season. Agronomists say rains have been extremely variable, and that's going to make it hard to predict yields.
One of the things that's really surprised us, though, is how well the crop has stood up to this point. However, we are in the high water use areas right now for both corn and soybeans, so we'll see how it holds on. But right now, variability, we're going to have some guys with the best crop maybe they've ever raised, and 8 miles down the road, it might be the worst one since 1988 or 2012.
Now, he says Cedar Rapids to Iowa City has only seen 1 to 2 inches of rain since planting season. Now, the garden spot may be along the I-35 corridor. Those areas started catching rains back in June. USDA releasing its latest crop condition rating numbers on Monday. 57% of the corn crop now rated good to excellent. That's a 2-point improvement over last week. 8% of the crop is now dented, right on pace with the 5-year average. Meanwhile, 54% of the soybean crop is rated good to excellent, also 2 points better than a week ago. Winter wheat harvest is chugging along at 87% cut. That's a point behind the 5-year average. Nebraska remains 5 points behind the average pace. And the cotton crop continues to struggle, just 41% now rated good to excellent. Meanwhile, a lack of rain through the Midwest in July has the Mississippi River 10 to 20 feet below the 2020-2019 average at the end of last week. Now, that's according to the Wall Street Journal. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers says dry soils, they're soaking up those recent rains rather than it running off into the river, although weekend moisture may start to change that trend. This is the second consecutive year that water levels have fallen, threatening to disrupt traffic on the inland waterway. Heavy rains in China now damaging that country's major cropping areas. The northeast region of the country dealing with flooding. It follows downpours in Beijing last week, which saw its heaviest rainfall in some 140 years. The country's grain basket now badly damaged and pushing China's own corn futures higher for a 4th consecutive day. As typhoon season continues, more rains are expected across the country. Now, China, it anticipated a bumper crop following an increase in planted acreage. Rains were pretty widespread over the weekend. As we said, meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht joins us with a first look at our forecast.
Yeah, Clinton, we're seeing something similar after what we had this weekend with the heavy rainfall that moved through portions of the United States. The pattern isn't shifting all that much in regards to the jet stream. So when I put this into motion, this is Tuesday at 5 p.m. See another complex start to develop and move from the west to the east, if not a little bit to the southeast, and embedded in there into Tennessee, also southern Illinois, southern Indiana, as well as parts of Missouri. Looking at a possibility of about 4 to 5 inches of rainfall. That's all coming from one system that's going to be moving from the west to the east. Back down here to the southwest, that ridge of high pressure is going to anchor this pattern in place. So staying dry through Oklahoma and Texas, make it a stray shower, but it's once again going to be more about the heat. And take a look at this beautiful scene from Bob Storm. No way his name is Bob Storm. Come on, Robert. He lives out in eastern Illinois and said he couldn't have asked for a more timely rain. And why not? More timely name, Bob Storm. The rain gauge showed more than 8.5 inches of rainfall over the course of the weekend, including 6 inches of rain on Saturday alone. Talk more about your forecast in just a bit.
More fighting in the Black Sea region, including 2 drone strikes, one hitting a Russian naval ship, the other an oil tanker. Meanwhile, in Turkey, take a look at this. An explosion at a grain silo near the port of Dernis in western Turkey. About a dozen people were injured in the blast. The cause under investigation, but early reports suggest it may have been a grain dust explosion. So what does all of these latest events mean for wheat markets? Michelle Rook joins us. And Michelle, it took a little time for the trade to react.
Hey, Clinton, wheat was up slightly on Monday, but fundamentally, it's hard to understand why the markets really haven't rallied more. In fact, last week, corn and wheat were beat down hard despite all the damage done in key export areas in the Black Sea. The 3 wheat classes lost from 70 cents to over $1. Market analysts are also disappointed as the Ukraine attacks now put at risk Russia's commodity exports via the Black Sea, a route accounting for most of the grain that Russia sells daily on global markets. Plus, significantly higher insurance and freight rates are likely to follow the attacks.
And that's going to run that insurance through the roof if they get insurance at all. And this is the Russian ports, not the Ukrainian ones. And so that factors in an incredible amount of grain. That, we're talking, another 45 million metric tons that has to come out of there.
Dueling says the fact that grain is still moving through Black Sea export areas despite some damage has been negative for the markets.
Clearly, it just continues to escalate. And at what point does the market have to care? And I guess we can still get grain out of there. If we start damaging Russian ports, then that changes. Most of Ukraine's Black Sea ports and some of the Danube ports have already sustained major damage, so I can't see them coming back online anytime soon.
He says if this same news would have happened last May, the market would have exploded. Plus, there is demand that's surfacing. Meanwhile, according to Ag Ministry data, Ukraine grain exports since July 1 are running 28% above last year. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for Ag Day.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Speaking of exports, Jones Island in Milwaukee just opened a new $40 million export facility. The terminal will ship dried distillers' grains, corn, and soybeans through the port to international destinations, mainly Northern Africa and Europe. The saga continues over Mexico's decision to stop importing GM corn for human consumption by 2024. Reuters reporting that Mexico has offered to jointly research the health effects of GM corn, and the U.S. has rejected that idea. The tension comes as the two nations failed to reach an agreement during a visit by USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack. Now, Mexico's deputy ag minister criticizing Washington's refusal to do joint impact studies on animal and human health, adding that the U.S. is treating its scientific claims as infallible. Well, the U.S., it continues to argue that the Mexican ban is a breach of the USMCA free trade agreement. Reuters adding, if the dispute is not resolved within the next 2 months, the U.S. can elevate the matter to a dispute settlement panel, and if that panel rules against Mexico, the country could be forced to modify its policy or incur substantial tariffs. Mexico did import more U.S. corn on Monday, but it failed to push markets higher. We'll have details on that in Markets Now next. And later, growing the next generation of ag leaders. We're off to Tennessee and 4-H camp in the country.
Ag Day, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when blood, sweat, and tears meet rain, wind, and sun. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
USDA says private exporters sold nearly 10 million bushels of corn to Mexico and almost 5 million bushels of soybeans to China on Monday, but it had little to no impact on the markets. Michelle Rook has more in Markets Now.
Grains were mixed on Monday with row crops lower, wheat to the plus side. Vince Boddicker with Farmers Trading Company is joining us. And Vince, soybeans, wow, rain makes grain apparently. Some good weekend rains kind of took that market down on Monday, didn't it?
Very hard. We come back on Monday morning and started to hit it hard and just kept going. We did get near that 100-day moving average. So hopefully that can hold in there for us and we get a pop out of here. I did have a seasonal trade on that was supposed to be liquidated on Monday. Whether that added any support, I don't know, but one has to think there could sure be some further downside with the good general rains.
Hopefully, though, as you say, we'll hold that 100-day moving average, especially going into the WASDE here on Friday. So wheat was going the opposite direction. That market putting some more premium back in, huh?
It is, and again, I'm not sure we got a lot of war premium in there, but as we looked at the tweets over the weekend of attacks on Russian ports and oil freighters, not what we'd like to see, but one would think if they're really concerned about it, we would have did more, but at least we came back and put new highs in late in the session on Monday. Let's see what Tuesday and further out may bring, but would think with the general outlook, yes, we sure could put some more premium in.
And the corn market kind of was a little bit lower, but got caught in the tug of war between lower soybeans and higher wheat, right?
That's what it sure looked like, Michelle. It was, you've got good rains, which is going to help finish that corn crop out. Not really sure it's going to add any bushels, but we can add some good test weight and keep things finishing well there. And beans, again, tried to pull it down early, but later session we came back in wheat, and we're holding at some general areas that may be some support in that corn, but not sure it can hold on for a long time.
And as far as technically, the corn market really needs to hold the July lows here, right?
I think, yes, I would agree with you on that. I think those are important. Otherwise, you have some free falls. Where do you go? You could easily go to 440 to 460 in that December. Maybe it's more than that.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. Vince Boddicker with Farmers Trading Company. That's Markets Now, and we'll have more Ag Day coming up.
Registration is open for the 2023 Pro Farmer Crop Tour, August 21st through the 24th. Attend one of our nightly meetings or join online as we gain insight on the 2023 growing season. Visit profarmercroptour.com/register to select the stop nearest you.
Well, just a little bit ago, we looked at the possibility of accumulating rainfall over the course of the next couple of days. Now I want to focus on the severe weather potential within that same system. And much like what we've been talking about, you got a trough that's going to be digging, a shallow one, back off here to the northeast and the east coast. And then that ridge of high pressure staying dry into Oklahoma and Texas will in between those two, whether it's the low or the trough or the ridge and the high. That's where we could see some strong thunderstorms develop, as well as the possibility of some flooding rains. Now, this is on Tuesday. On Wednesday comes a little bit more focus. We lose the several severe storms category. A few severe storms will be possible. And look at the area that it takes up. That includes as far north as parts of Illinois into Indiana, and then also back down here as far south as Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama. On Wednesday. Now, the overall pattern, once again, is going to take us into this trough that's down here towards the northeast with some of the rain associated with it, and that ridge back out here towards the west and the southwest. Now, this is Thursday into Friday. The jet stream isn't going to shift all that much between our Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Our ridge stays to the south. Our trough develops into the northeast, where the best chance of rain will come into play. And then little piece, see this little wave right here cutting just through Colorado. That is what we look for in regards to a little bit more energy or oomph. Technical term, oomph, in the atmosphere. Again, this is jet stream on Wednesday. You can kind of trace this off to the east and how well it matches up with that severe weather potential and also the flooding rainfall. Staying dry down here to the south, but a little bit more rain and cooler temperatures into the northeast. What's going on in Wisconsin? Madison, to be more specific. Partly cloudy, high around 84 degrees. West Virginia, partly cloudy, high around 80, low of 65. We'll keep it partly cloudy into Georgia, high around 87 degrees for your Tuesday.
The number of blue and gold jackets continues to expand. The National FFA organization reporting a record number of student members. The total nearing 946,000 students. That's up 11% from just a year ago. There are currently more than 9,000 chapters. In terms of largest delegations, the biggest memberships are found in Texas, California, Georgia, Illinois, and North Carolina. Dairy margin coverage is helping to keep the industry pumping. We'll have details on that coming up next. And later, keeping the excitement flowing is part of the job for leaders at this Tennessee 4-H camp. We'll join the ranks in the country.
The Dairy Report on Ag Day is brought to you by Beringer Ingelheim, because you, the people who put cattle first, are second to none.
From our partners at Dairy Herd Management, as milk prices fall and feed costs skyrocket, dairy margin coverage payments continue to be a bright spot. Through the first half of the year, more than $600 million in payments have been issued. That's a big difference compared to a year ago. Back in 2022, only $83.7 million were issued, with the average operation getting roughly $4,600. Now, last year, milk prices were much more favorable, so this year, average enrolled operations have seen better than $36,000 through the first half of the year, and there are still 6 months worth of payments to go. Meanwhile, there continues to be a push to allow 2% in whole milk back into schools. New York Senate Ag Committee calling on Congress to include a measure in the 2023 Farm Bill that gives the power of milk choice back to school districts. State Senate Ag Chair Michelle Hinchy adding that whole milk contains no more than 3.5% fat, and a third of those fatty acids are omega-3s, which have been linked to positive health benefits. Meanwhile, Tyson continues to struggle with its chicken business, announcing plans to shutter 4 more facilities later this year. Tyson Foods says the locations are in Arkansas, Indiana, and Missouri. The company planning to move the production to other locations as a way to boost capacity utilization and reduce costs. Now, production is slated to end at those locations in early 2024. The company has been working through a significant consolidation plan over the past year and a half. Now, you may remember back in May, Tyson reported a surprise loss in the second quarter. Monday reported another $400 million loss in Q3. However, the company still expects revenues above $53 billion. Those summer camps are starting to wind down. But before school starts, these 4-H'ers in Tennessee got some good lessons in leadership and team building. That story next in the country.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Tennessee 4-H offers summertime leadership and citizenship opportunities where young people can grow and learn. Now, among the events where hundreds of kids take part, Roundup and Academic Conference. Charles Denny tells us about a milestone celebration and how 4-H'ers prepare for their future.
With UT's famed torchbearer keeping watch, a little summertime fun. Cornhole is a cookout given these days. And an obstacle course through a bouncy house. All activities for Tennessee 4-H Roundup. More than 300 high schoolers on campus for competitions and learning opportunities. 2023 marks 100 years for Roundup, meaningful for 4-H'er Bristol Brown.
That's pretty special to me because my mom, my grandfather, and everybody in my family went to Roundup back in their 4-H days. And I just think it's an honor to be able to come to the 100th Roundup.
The first ever statewide 4-H event took place in July 1923, called State Club Camp. That led to the creation of the modern version of Roundup. And this past century, more than 38,000 young people have taken part. Roundup includes competitions in project areas where judges ask questions of the 4-H'ers. This young lady talked about beekeeping. 4-H leaders say it's great preparation for future job interviews, and the tradition of Roundup teaches great lessons about networking and team building.
The kids get the history, they see the family, they see the impact that 4-H has had, and Roundup is a premier event.
4-H Academic Conference is another summertime event where kids are learning about project areas, specific skills and topics that interest them. Here, the Communications and Public Speaking Group meets with UT Institute of Agriculture Vice Chancellor and Vice President Keith Carver. With Academic Conference, 4-H'ers talk to adult volunteers representing a number of professional careers.
The experiences have been absolutely incredible. I've loved being able to do special things with my project group, like going to main event, and the workshops. I've met so many nice people.
I really love communications because I think that I can really tell people different things. I think public speaking is very important.
So a summertime of learning and fun experiences. You can't visit UT without a Neyland Stadium pick, and that's what these Rounduppers did. For youth, these 4-H events are a chance to grow, and in this instance, be part of something that's been going on for 100 years. You can both appreciate the past and look to the future. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles, and that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Quentin Rivers. Have a great day.